Okay, pucker your lips. Chautauqua. Chautauqua. We have our Native American forebears to credit for why so many places across this great country of ours are called what they are. And in the case of Chautauqua, we can thank the Iroquois, an indigenous confederacy of tribes known as the people of the Longhouse, who spoke of the lake in upstate New York that they were compelled to explore as if they were two moccasins bound together. And it would be that very same place that in 1874, two gentlemen, John Vincent and Lewis Miller, envisioned a summer campsite for Methodist Sunday school teachers, giving lasting voice to the Chautauqua movement, now nearly 150 years old. It was an idea that historically swept the nation, founded a mothership, the Chautauqua Institute in Western New York, and presses forward today in its rebirth. Theodore Roosevelt, one of our most prized of presidents, hailed it as the most American thing in America. The Chautauqua movement reflected a nationwide interest in the professionalization of teaching. Vincent and Miller were very clear that their intent was educational rather than revivalist. Podiums was on their mind, not pulpits. Lifelong learning was the vision, and they had 4 pillars to prove it: culturally, intellectually, spiritually, and recreationally. Among other things, the gentlemen, in their efforts to set a permanent anchor on the shores of Lake Chautauqua, also conceived of designing a correspondence course to bring a college opportunity to working and middle-class people who would otherwise be denied one. So it was in the late 1800s that the founder's dream became so popular it spread across the country like wildfire. And by 1900, independent assemblies, permanent fixtures with buildings and staff, just like the Institute on the lake, began to pepper the landscape, particularly in the Midwest. In fact, the name itself, Chautauqua, became shorthand for organized gatherings meant to introduce people to the great thinkers, new ideas, and issues of public concern. As well, tent Chautauquas, veritable traveling shows, naturally evolved as this idea, whose time had come, gained very serious traction and became the principal expression of the movement. The breadth of their programming varied from Ivy League lecturers and Shakespearean actors to animal acts and vaudeville farce. And at their height, some 12,000 communities had hosted a Chautauqua of their own. And our very own Athens, Georgia, was no exception. Eclipsed by the wheels of time, both movements found themselves sidelined in the 1930s. Historians cite a serious wave of evangelism that the Chautauquans' meeting formats could not satisfy, plus the birth and the ascendancy of the car and its culture, the radio and the talkies. And then there was the death knell, the Great Depression. However, the good news is that even though the Chautauqua Institute and those independent assemblies suffered some undeniably hard times, they, like the tent Chautauquas, are all experiencing a renaissance. And one shining example of that is right down the road in Greenville, South Carolina. Her very own Chautauqua, History Comes Alive. Truly an idea whose time has come again. So it was in 1965 that our United States Congress established the National Endowment for the Humanities. And partnering with a number of state humanities councils, ignited the public's affection for arts and culture in that public square. And it would set the stage for that town's brilliant revival of her very own version of the tent Chautauquas. It's called Greenville Chautauqua's History Comes Alive. And everyone is in, from the chambers of commerce to the humanities councils, to downtown authorities, to public libraries. Every summer, for 2 weeks, they have a festival where they host 40 first-rate historical reenactments. It's like watching a veritable big top unfold on multiple greens before the people's eyes for the last 20 years. Word spread about this phenomenon so fast that the Greenville Chautauqua realized they needed to generously partner with metropolises of like minds. Enter Spartanburg, South Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina, Brevard, North Carolina. And now, since we here in Athens have founded our very own Chautauqua in 2019, we've been added to that tri-star roster and proudly can claim to be the only site in Georgia on the circuit. Our collaborative with Greenville adds our very own acclaimed historical interpreters, just as others across the country have brought great speakers of the day, where people can gather together face to face to learn, to exchange ideas, to create community, and oh yes, have fun. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Athens Chautauqua, like the whole world, has gone virtual. And so since the fall of 2020, we have successfully launched a series of Zoom presentations, like Sonny Kelly, like Bruce Collier. The spirit of Chautauqua is more than any one performance. It's a chance to be part of history come alive for all of us. A chance to debate the Constitution with our forefathers, to laugh out loud with Mark Twain, get ourselves arrested with Rosa Parks. The Athens Chautauqua Society wants to thank the University of Georgia's Torrance Center's Festival of Ideas, and in particular, Dr. Anna Abraham, for inviting us to be part of your festival this weekend as we celebrate our rebirth of a century-old start.